Hey everybody, this is John on behalf of Second Dynasty. This is the Tribe's Rover instruction video. This rover was voted for by people in our tribe. Consider joining to unlock goodies such as this, and it was modeled by me. Let's go over some of the parts. We have our base piece, our front piece, chairs, a steering wheel, and I want to pick up the steering wheel. There's a teeny tiny notch. You can barely see it even on this video, but mind where it is. It's right here on this one. We have the front rod holder. It also has a tiny notch, showed it right here. Rear rod holder. Next we have our rods. They are identical front and rear. You print out two, and notice there is a side that's an innie and an outie with a triangle. There's a smaller side and a bigger side, and the bigger side has these little notches on it. Finally, we have our tires. The tires are printed using random seam. Mind the direction when you're installing them. Next up, let's go over some of the tools you'll need. I use a set of Allen wrenches. The ones from my Prusa mini tool bag work just fine. I also needed filament and a filament cutter. And optionally, you can use glue. I use this gel super glue. No branding, please. No sponsorship. Now, let's do some test fitting. Take your base part and the front rod holder. Flip over the base part and insert the front rod holder. Make sure the notch located right here is what's going in. You might have a little resistance or even a lot of resistance based on your printer. Now I print with no XY compensation, and you may need to print with -0.1 based on your printer. Let's just get this in. I'm going to use a Allen wrench. There we go. And now we're going to make sure you can smoothly move it around. Put this through and just see if it spins easily. We're just breaking up a little bit of the filament that's sticking. We want a little bit of rotation, but not a ton. And there we go. That part is now in. We'll be able to rotate it a lot easier once we put the rod in. Next, take the base part and the rear rod holder. Insert it the tall side first. This one's a lot easier than the front one. And there. Make sure, by using a piece of filament, that it can go into this hole. Good. Yes, it can. Now, we're going to put the base part down, and we're going to take the front part. This is a print-in-place rotatable piece. Take a smaller Allen wrench and pop it into that hole, and then move it up and down. The reason we're using an Allen wrench instead of the steering wheel is the plastic sometimes will break if it's slightly too tight. There we go. We're making sure we can go all the way up and all the way down. Excellent. Finally, on our last test fit, we're going to take a wheel and we're going to make sure on the smaller portion that it spins freely. We shouldn't have any resistance. And I like to assign these to belong to a particular rod. So this one will go to this rod, and this one will go to this one. I had a little bit under extrusion on this part. We're now at assembly. Let's take our rods, the base part, and one tire. Why don't we do the rear first? Take our rods, and we're going to insert it the notch side into this, and we're going to insert it on the highest setting so you could see we're putting that through, and you'll get a little resistance. There we are. It's now in, and it's on the highest setting. Then we're going to put the tire on. Mind the rotation. I like to visualize how it's going to spin. This is the front of the vehicle, so I like it to spin that way with the arrows pointing toward the front. Then I'm going to take this piece and line up the outie with the innie, making sure it lines up with this spoke. This can be very hard, and once it's in, it's very hard to adjust it. Go back and forth between them, and we now have this part. Let's make sure it moves. We should be able to go down. Yep, we can go down, and we can go back up, and it will stay locked wherever it's at. Hooray! Good. Now, let's repeat the same step using the new rod and the front tire. Let's insert this in. Let's put the innie in. Make sure we have it in the correct orientation. We're going to be going this way with it. So we're going to line up the notch and pop it in. Then we're going to take our tire, mind the rotation. That looks correct. And I'm going to then take this piece, lining up the notch, and snap it in. I should be able to rotate it too with a little difficulty, but not a ton. Yep, I can rotate it. And as you use it more, that will slowly get looser and looser. Good, and should be able to go up too. Yep. Hurrah, we now have the articulating wheels in. Now we're going to insert our chairs. Here's what I like to do. I like to put the piece of filament in, go as deep as I can. It should feel a little resistance. Then I like to snip off a piece. Not a lot, just a tiny bit to go into the hole. There you go, you can see it on the white. Then I'm going to insert it in, minding which way the front is, and you should feel a little resistance as it goes in. There we go. That part is now in. Good, stable. We're going to repeat the same thing with the rear chair. Insert as hard as you can. You should feel a little more resistance at the end. Snip off a little bit. Oops, that flew away. And we pop it in the back. There we are. Now, optionally, you can glue these. Don't put glue on the end of the filament thing because then it won't be able to rotate for the front. But you can put glue on the sides of this and then insert it into the glue to hold it down even firmer, though it likely doesn't need it. Next up, we're going to take our steering wheel and the front piece. Mind the notch. There's a teeny tiny notch right there, and there's a teeny tiny notch right here. It's very hard to see it, but it makes it a little hard if you put it in wrong. So I'm going to put that in. I'm going to spin it a little bit to randomize wherever that teeny tiny notch is, which makes it hold in, just a tiny bit of holding. And we should be able to place where we want it, and it should be able to spin. Woo. We're on our last step. We're going to take some filament. I'm going to insert it in. I like to insert the filament into the front piece, go as deep as I can, and then for the front, I always forget how long it really is. So let's try about right here. That's probably too long, but it'll give me an idea. Then we're going to test fit it. It should be angled upward. There we go. That's pretty good. Let's take another piece of filament, pop it in, go as far as we can. You should feel a little bit of resistance, and then cut it. Make sure you cut on the angle to get the best fit. Now, if you want to, you could glue this filament in by taking it out again using your angle cutters, putting glue on that tip, and then pushing it down. Without it, it's a little loose. I'm not going to assemble with glue today. Take both of them in and assemble test fit. There we go. Oh, it's actually a little more stable than I expected. And your Rover is now done. You should be able to spin the tires freely, and they should move when you're rolling it across. The steering wheel should spin and go up and down. And you should be able to articulate the fronts, making it taller or shorter. And you should be able to articulate the front section. I had to jump cut because I made a mistake. There you go. This Rover was given out for free to everyone in the tribe in August. Tribe is kind of like Patreon, but done through My Mini Factory. You also can purchase this Rover by clicking the link found in the description below. Thank you very much. Bye.